Hey guys, it's Monica, and you're joining me for another episode of It Takes a Family. Welcome. Sorry I've been gone for a while. I've been trying to figure out speaking and traveling and making videos all at the same time, but I'm happy to be back with you. So today I just want to give you an update on what is happening in Texas. But just because I'm talking about Texas doesn't mean that this doesn't also pertain to you, or that any of this information cannot also be helpful to you in your state. So talking about comprehensive sex education again today. And just also remember that if you have any questions for me, or if there's a specific topic that you want me to talk about, shoot it my way. I have a million ideas in my mind of what I want to tell you. And then I start to question oh, do they really want to know that? Oh, everybody knows that. And then usually people are like, no, we don't know anything about that. So all of this information is like this in my brain. So let me know what you want to hear about, because I would love to make sure that you get that information. And if I'm not an expert in that particular topic, I also plan on inviting some guests to come onto my show through Skype or in person to talk about things like gender and counseling and all kinds of things. So please send me your ideas. You can email me at Monica, MONICA, at ittakesafamily.org. Monica at ittakesafamily.org. So today I want to give you a little update about what is happening in Texas. So many of my friends and I have been applying to be on a TEACS work group. TEACS is basically creating standards for what will be taught in our schools regarding different subjects. And of course, my friends and I are really busy applying and wanting to get on the work group that has to do with health, because we want to talk about sex education and we want to ensure that our children are safe from graphic sex education that puts them in danger. So anyway, some of my friends were able to get on the work groups, which is awesome. Some amazing professionals. But what's really interesting is that Texas Freedom Network and SIECUS held a joint rally, I guess, on the west side of the Capitol here in Austin, Texas, during the time that the work groups were also meeting. And this group was made up of individuals. I noticed that it was mostly women who are touting and supporting comprehensive sex education. And really what they're doing is saying that Texas, whose law says that sex education is optional, but if it is to be taught in the school, it must be abstinence only, not comprehensive sex education, because Texas trusts parents. Texas trusts that the parents can talk about the very intimate and important topic of sex education at home. But organizations like Texas Freedom Network and SIECUS and Planned Parenthood don't believe that parents are equipped, capable, or safe. So they want to take that responsibility away from the parent, parental rights, and they want it for themselves. So now I do believe that a lot of the women who were speaking on the steps, I actually have a good friend, Jennifer Fleck, who recorded some of what they were saying and put it on her Facebook page. And some of them had some legitimate concerns. I do believe that the women that were there truly care about their own children and other children. So anyway, it was an interesting thing. So basically, I do want to let you know, though, that the Texas Freedom Network was founded by Planned Parenthood's former president, Cecile Richards. So now we know that Texas Freedom Network is actually a pro-abortion, pro-sex, graphic sex education organization. So they're definitely very left-leaning, and so what they're promoting goes against any family who is right-leaning, and especially those who are of the Christian faith or the Muslim faith or any faith where they believe intimate information like sexuality should be taught at home and not at a public school and not by the government. So TFN wants to impede on the rights of parents and families and provide graphic sex education to our children in the schools. SIECUS is also a sex organization that was formed in the 60s. It was formed by the Kinsey Institute, or Kinsey leaders at the time, and also by Planned Parenthood, and Planned Parenthood was a big part of the creation of SIECUS as well. I believe one of their founders or first presidents was Mary Calderon, who was a Planned Parenthood director or president. So anyway, SIECUS is also a very left-leaning organization, and basically Planned Parenthood, Texas Freedom Network, SIECUS, Advocates for Youth, Teen Talk, Amaze.org, all of these organizations and many more are all pro-abortion, pro-comprehensive sex education, which is very graphic sex education, and they believe in secular humanism. In other words, secular humanism says that a belief in God is not something that they respect. What they respect is their own perceptions. And so if they perceive that a particular, for example, on the topic of sex, if they believe that a particular sex activity is normal and healthy, then they're not concerned about what other people think. They just want to have the right to be able to engage in that. And I suppose that's fine for an individual, but when they start to teach secular humanism to our children and in the public square and in our schools to our young, vulnerable children, then that becomes a huge problem. And that's, a lot of people's problem with comprehensive sex education is that it's based on secular humanism. It impedes on parental rights and the rights of families to teach their own children their views on their morals and their values about sex and relationships and marriage. Planned Parenthood and SIECUS don't talk about family, and they don't talk about marriage because for them, sex has nothing to do with that. Sex is just a material thing. It's just a thing that it's done, void of any kind of value. The only value that they really add to sex is that they believe everyone has the right to do it, which no one's trying to take that right away. And basically they just don't want any of that, of what they do, to be judged. And that was a big part of the Kinsey Institute and Alfred Kinsey, who is really the creator the theory of sexuality being fluid. And a lot of it had to do with him being able to justify his own abnormal sexual behavior. But unfortunately, sex education in our country has been based on his theories and on his unethical research. And a lot of that is what you see hailed and is really the foundation of Planned Parenthood and SIECUS. So, but some of the things that the women were saying that were really interesting, one is a very familiar, Jennifer Fleck mentioned this, so this is why I wanted to talk about it, a very old, tried and true reason why comprehensive sex education is necessary in the schools. And they basically said that parents are the problem. They basically said that parents either don't know how to talk about it because they're ignorant, kids don't want to talk to their parents because it's uncomfortable and because their parents are ignorant, or parents or some households are so unsafe that the kids can't talk about it at all because it's not a safe place. So there's this fear now that there's unsafe homes with unsafe parents who cannot talk about sex. So I think those are some very bold assumptions. I also think that really tugs on the hearts of some people who think, oh, there probably are some families out there that are neglectful or abusive, and there are. I think that they are much fewer than I think Planned Parenthood likes to believe. And I do think that a lot of parents are or do feel that they're not equipped to talk about sexuality at home, and that it is awkward. But it takes as I created It Takes a Family because as a single mom, I was able to talk to my son about sex. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, but you were also a sex educator. Well, I didn't teach my son comprehensive sex education. I taught him based on modesty and morals and values that I learned through my faith. I did that because I know what it's like to live a life molded by comprehensive sex education. I know how that harmed me. I know how I harmed other people. I know how empty it left all of us feeling. And I learned those lessons, and I also saw how comprehensive sex education was harming the community, not just me individually, but the community. I was really seeing how comprehensive sex education was not bringing any kind of healing or any kind of positive result within the communities that we were teaching it in, which were mostly impoverished areas. And so because of that, I chose to teach my son differently. So I now, as y'all know, take the time to talk to parents, whether it's at a church or a community center or through online programs, where I teach parents what they need to know about some of the things going on in our society today so that they're aware of what's happening. I give them the language. I talk to them about creating positive relationships with their children so that they can communicate effectively, preparing them for those tough questions so they don't react with fear. And sometimes when we react with fear, we might even get angry. And so all of that is normal. It's normal for us to react that way. Why? Because parents are good. Because parents naturally want to protect their children. And so when a parent is faced with something that scares them because they know it's going to harm their child, sometimes we might react with a bit of anger, or we might say, oh, well, let's not talk about that. So what I do with It Takes a Family is I equip parents. I equip you, and we can practice together so that when the time comes for you to have that conversation or conversations, because I believe this is a lifelong conversation. There is no the talk. There's lots of talks. It's a lifelong talk. It's while you're driving, while you're eating, while you're sitting together, while you're walking through town, whatever it may be. It is an ongoing conversation about life and relationships and intimacy with your children. So anyway, that was one of the fears, that parents are not equipped. No problem. I can help equip you. And TFN may be thinking, yeah, but you're just one woman. Yeah, I can equip a lot of people on the internet. So no problem with that. But you're not an expert. Yes, I am. Actually, I'm an expert in comprehensive sex education. I'm an expert in sexual risk avoidance education. And I'm also an expert in biblical purity. I'm an expert in communication skills and dealing with difficult people. You know what? I am. So I'm totally equipped to do it. Now, there are some topics that I am not an expert in. Guess what? I know a lot of people, a lot of professional people who are licensed counselors. So I'll be bringing some of those people on my show, and online program, so that you have access to that as well. So one of the other let's see, what else did they say at TFN? Oh, one of the new things that surprised my friend Jennifer was that they said, hey, we need this education in the schools because we trust these sex education experts. We trust them to give good, accurate information because our kids are accessing all kinds of crazy information, unsafe information on the internet. Well, guess who's providing that information? Planned Parenthood. So, mom, dad, I hate to say this because I'm always afraid that kids are watching my videos, but go onto the Planned Parenthood YouTube page and you will see horrible, information to teach your child how to have sex, especially one of their videos about consent. So in the state of Texas, you have to be 17 or older to give consent to have sex. Anyone younger than that, our state has deemed that they're too young to consent to sex, that they're not ready to make that kind of a decision. And so, and people have voted for that. So anyway, but Planned Parenthood says that they never mention anything in their consent video about law or about the fact that you're too young to consent, that perhaps young people are in a more vulnerable place to be able to consent to sex, especially with someone who's an adult, which is also illegal. So in this video by Planned Parenthood about consent, it doesn't talk about that. It doesn't talk about that disparity or that imbalance of power between an older person and a younger person. They basically just say that consent is, you say yes. You go along with it. You decide to do it. And if you don't want to do it, you just say no. But how many of our young kids truly are empowered to do that? They're not, which is why we have laws, which is why parents also set boundaries and rules within their family, because they know their kids are not capable at that stage of development to make those kind of difficult decisions for themselves. So we do things to protect them. So when it comes to unsafe information on the internet, look no further than Planned Parenthood. Now, Planned Parenthood not only has bad information in their videos that puts our children at risk, it also teaches them secular humanism. In other words, they basically tell you that anything and everything is okay to do with no judgment whatsoever. And so for Planned Parenthood, just the fact that our kids are going through puberty is enough license to say, go on and have sex. And that's the problem that parents have with comprehensive sex education. It's this license that just because our children have gone through puberty, that now all of a sudden they just have to become sexually active. And that's completely not only inaccurate, but unhealthy. And it also goes against, which is why we don't want this in our schools, is that it goes against the values and the morals of so many families in our country. Not just, and I know if someone from the left is watching this right now, they're probably thinking, oh, those Christians. Well, not just Christians, but Muslims, and there's several other faiths that feel the same way. And then there's also people who may not have a faith in a God, but they do believe that it's important for their children to abstain from sex until they're adults. And so I don't believe that Planned Parenthood, the Texas Freedom Network, SIECUS, the Human Rights Campaign, no organization in existence anywhere in the globe has the right to impede on the rights of parents to teach and mold their children according to their values and morals. Get it out of our school. Stop teaching that in our school. Now, it's not enough for me to say this on camera. Mom, Dad, you all need to vote. You need to ensure that you are voting for the right school board members. You need to make sure that you're on your Texas School Health Advisory Committee to make decisions about what kind of health education is in your school. You need to meet your state representatives and ensure that they are not passing bills that are going to impede on your parental rights to raise your children with your morals and values. This is really important. You don't have to go as far, you can just go as far as looking at the laws in California. The parents there, the families there are truly suffering because the state, the schools, and so many left-leaning organizations that promote and push comprehensive sex education on our children are going as far as taking the kids from school, transporting them to a clinic for abortions, contraception, STD treatment, testing and treatment, and then bringing them back to school without the parents even knowing. That is horrible. and they're celebrating this and thinking it's great. This state is also celebrating and teaching pedophilia as a legitimate sexual orientation. That means that they believe that adults should be having sex with your children, and they believe that your children have the right to consent according to Planned Parenthood. This is some really serious stuff. So if you're a person, here's another thing I want to really emphasize. If you're a person of faith and your church or your temple is not, the leaders of your church or temple are not talking about this, they need to talk about this, because this is a huge deal. Stop worrying about this false belief that there's a separation of church and state. Our children are at stake here. Our families, our values are at stake, and you need to take action. I think that's all I can share about them for now. But just remember, if you're in Texas, Texas Freedom Network, left-leaning, they want comprehensive sex education. They do not trust that parents know how to teach their children, so they're going to bring in Planned Parenthood and other forms of and other organizations that teach comprehensive sex education into the school. That's what they want, and force that onto your children, because parents, they don't trust you. You're not smart enough. You don't know enough. You're old-fashioned. You're abusive. You're unsafe. And so Texas Freedom Network wants to take your freedom to parent your own child away from you and force it into the school. So there you go, Texas Freedom Network. SIECUS, same thing. You can look them up, read about them. Ooh, I'm gonna do another video about something that SIECUS said about sexual risk avoidance, the success sequence, and racism. Man, it's actually got me really angry. So that'll be coming up really soon, because if you haven't already noticed, I'm brown. And so this particular article really made me angry. So definitely come and back to my Facebook page and my YouTube channel to see the next episode. It might be that one. It might also be another episode I'm going to be coming up with is discussing the STD rates in our nation. For example, a lot of comprehensive sex proponents say that if, for example, in Texas, that we've had abstinence only for so long and it's a big problem, and that we've never had any other form of education. That is a lie. HIV and STD prevention has been alive and well since probably the 60s, and yet our STD rates are still really high at epidemic levels even. So, and all that education that has been promoted by HIV prevention and STD has all been risk reduction education, which is also comprehensive sex education. It's the same health model. So it is not true that we've been abstinence only. We've actually had these in our state for a very, very long time. So that's another video that'll be coming up as well. And again, in that same video, we'll be talking about some great research that an organization did to show that comprehensive sex education has not been effective really across our nation. They even have there's another report that's international as well, but I'm just going to focus on our nation here in the United States. So anyway, if you have any questions for me, if you have ideas for topics that you'd like me to touch on, please email them to me at monica@ittakesafamily.org. I would be so happy to get your feedback and any ideas about topics, because I want to make sure that your needs are being met and that you're getting the information that you need, because parents, I know you are your children's greatest advocates. Our children are waiting for us, the parents, to lead, and I want to help you do that with scientific information, medically accurate information, with the latest research, and to give you some of the best skills that you can have access to ensure that you are able to have a healthy relationship with your children and see them grow and prosper in their life long term. So anyway, y'all have a great night, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye.